welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with the esteemed Dr. Eric Lopkin. And on Friday's show, the live show, we talked a lot about um, social media and privacy. And it's really, again, at the forefront this week and last week as well, wasn't it?
It really is. There have been a lot of things going on. It started with Apple. Apple announced a new security feature that's going to be in the iOS operating system that requires any app that targets you with ads to allow you to opt out. Now, this includes Google, this includes Facebook. So Apple is trying to give users the opportunity to keep their data private.
Okay, what does that do to companies like Google? Let's hold off on the social implications for right now. What does it do to Google's and Facebook's revenue model?
Well, what it does is it absolutely devastates it.
That's what I thought, yeah.
They rely on targeted ads. And if people have the ability to opt out, Facebook came out and said that it would cause a tremendous drop in revenue. Facebook then accused Apple of antitrust, saying they have too much power if they can do that, and targeted ads are good for small business because a small business doesn't want to blanket Facebook with an ad. It wants to be very precise. Now, remember, Apple's new feature doesn't block ad targeting. It allows people to opt out.
It's called freedom of choice, isn't it?
Yes. So Facebook's argument does not have a lot of weight behind it.
Has it been reflective of their stock lately? I would imagine it's going to have some.
This announcement hasn't really affected the stock because we don't know when Apple is planning on rolling the security feature out. However, the Justice Department and I believe 40 state attorneys generals filed antitrust suits against Facebook just prior to them making this to Facebook striking out against Apple. So most watchers feel this is them trying to deflect attention away from the fact that they're being targeted as antitrust. Now, just before we went on the air, the Texas Attorney General announced they were going after Google for the same ad targeting. So Texas is taking the position that people have the right to opt out of this. Apple is giving them the way to opt out, and Google and Facebook are furious.
Okay, what's behind this? I mean, maybe Trump's been talking about it for several years. Has that been an influential factor at all? Or it's just the natural progression of things?
I think it's the natural progression of things. Apple has been a big privacy advocate for quite a long time. If you remember a number of years ago, Apple implemented software on all of their phones that all of your data, Apple can't get to it. And the FBI tried to force Apple to put a back door in so that they could access private information, and Apple refused. So Apple has been a privacy advocate for quite a while. This is just the next step in their advocacy, but it's a big one because now they're not just taking on the government, they're also taking on their fellow tech companies.
No, exactly. And I mean, this is could be an industry realigner, couldn't it?
It really could. When Apple goes through with this, it's going to take a big hit on Facebook's revenue. It's going to take a big hit on Google's revenues. Now, aside from the revenues, the fact that people won't be able to target you if you've opted out One, big step for privacy. Two, it's actually going to go further to prevent the phony ads that rocked the election both in 2016 and 2020, because now people aren't going to be able to be targeted with them.
Wow. That's very, very interesting. So not only does it have Wall Street / financial implications, but political and social ramifications as well, Dr. Lopkin, doesn't it?
Yes, it's an absolute game changer. And what really set it off is Apple has been talking about this security feature for a while. And in their developer kit for apps, they have the framework already set up, and they're starting to require apps to use it. At a privacy symposium in Europe, Apple announced that they would remove Facebook and Google apps from the App Store if they didn't comply.
This is really monumental information. I think we're going to have to keep on top of this because it really trims the feathers of Facebook and Google, at least on its face.
It does. It takes a lot of the power away from them that they've garnered over the years. It's a huge step forward for privacy advocates. It's a huge step forward for political freedom because it stops a lot of the false ads that were going forward. It's a huge step. And quite frankly, the fact that the two main operating systems for phones are iPhone and Android, which Google controls, it puts the pressure on Google to step up, change their business model, and allow Android users to have that same freedom of privacy.
I would agree. Fantastic subject matter, really interesting discussion, something we might even shed some further light on our live show this Friday.
Yeah, we'll keep on top of this, and you can join us Friday at 4 o'clock for our live show at blogtalkradio.com/carnivore radio. And now you can go to xvadio.com/subscribe and have the Carnivore Radio podcasts delivered right to your inbox.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Lopkin, and thank our listeners.
See you Friday.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Xvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.